Hello, scholars, and welcome to level 2-6, Human Impact. This is our last video for our second unit, Earth Science. All right, before we begin, put your name, date, which is September 27, 2016, and page 29 on your notes now. Once you finish doing that, pause the video and answer the question. Define the following words: constructive processes and destructive processes. Did you pause it? Did you answer your questions? Great job. All right. So last week, on Monday, we focused on constructive and destructive processes. Remember, a constructive process is a process that builds the surface of the earth. We talked about two constructive processes: deposition, which drops off sediment and adds sediment to the earth's surface, building deltas and sand dunes. The second one was volcanoes. Remember, volcanoes are constructive because when the lava hardens, it adds land or more rocks to the surface of the earth. Remember, the islands of Hawaii and many other islands throughout the world were formed due to volcanoes. All right, secondly, destructive processes are processes that destroy the surface of the earth. Remember, we talked about three destructive processes. The first was weathering. Remember, weathering is the breaking down of rock, and when I break something, I'm destroying it. Next, erosion. Erosion is the movement or carrying away of sediment. And finally, earthquakes. Earthquakes are a quick destructive process that occurs when two plates slide past each other and release energy that cracks the Earth's surface. If you did not get your definitions correct, go ahead and pause the video and fix it in your notes now. All right, great job. Today's objective is scientists will be able to identify how scientists predict, prepare, and rebuild after or before natural disasters. Before we begin, let's answer this question. Can scientists stop a natural disaster or changes in the Earth's surface? Well, scientists can't stop a natural disaster or changes in the Earth's surface. However, they can protect us from the effects of natural disasters and changes in the Earth's surface by predicting, preparing, and rebuilding after the disasters or changes in the Earth's surface occur. Now, I want you to pause the video and go ahead and fill that in your notes now. Make sure you pause it and check your spelling. All right, great job. Did you check your spelling? Good. All right, so the first natural disaster scientists can predict, prepare, and rebuild after for are earthquakes. So we're going to talk a little bit about earthquakes. Remember, earthquakes are destructive processes. Now, whenever you see a word that starts with the word size or siz, they are talking about earthquakes. All right, that is known as a prefix. It's the beginning of the word. Whenever you see that prefix that starts with SEIS, they are talking about earthquakes. All right. A seismologist is a scientist that studies earthquakes. Repeat after me. Seismologist. Great job. All right. So, now that we've talked about the scientist that studies earthquakes, let's talk about the tools scientists use to study earthquakes. Scientists use what is called a seismograph. A seismograph is what seismologists use to record the movement in the Earth's crust. All right? So, a seismologist gives us a number on what is known as the Richter scale. The Richter scale ranges from the number 1 to 10. All right? A strong earthquake is any earthquake that is the number 7 or higher on the Richter scale. So remember, a seismologist uses a seismograph. The seismograph gives us a number on the Richter scale. The Richter scale lets us know how strong the earthquake was. 7 or higher is a strong earthquake. Scientists also construct buildings to be safer in an earthquake. So buildings are built a certain way so that they are safer in an earthquake. All right, go ahead and fill in the information on earthquakes in your notes now. Make sure you pause the video. All right, great job. Did you check your spelling? You sure? I'm going to check it tomorrow. All right, good job. All right, now that we've talked about earthquakes, let's talk about how scientists control floods. All right? Floods are natural disasters, are a natural process or natural disasters that occur near bodies of water. It's when the water just starts to overflow and there's a large amount of water. Now, floods are what are known as constructive and destructive processes. So floods build the surface of the earth and they can destroy the surface of the earth. All right? Scientists build dams and levees to control flooding. So, let's first talk about dams. Dams control the flow of water. So, a scientist builds dams in rivers and lakes to control how much water can flow downriver at any time. All right. Scientists build levees. Levees also control flooding. Levees are walls of earth or concrete that are built along banks of waterways to keep flood waters from rising, and it keeps the flood water in a specific area. So, what we're getting ready to watch is a video from Hurricane Katrina. And Hurricane Katrina was a large hurricane that occurred in the New Orleans area. And so we're going to see what happens when levees are overflowing and the water doesn't stay in a specific area. So as you see, the water is flowing over the levee. So the winds and the water from the hurricane were so strong that the levee couldn't hold the water behind the wall. So what happened is flooding, the areas around the levee began to flood. And that's why New Orleans flooded during Hurricane Katrina. And eventually the levees got so weak from the water overflowing so much that they ended up breaking. So all that water just went straight into the city of New Orleans. All right, go ahead and pause the video and fill all that information about flood control in your notes now. Make sure you check your spelling and answer your review question. All right, great job. Did you pause the video? Great. All right, so we've talked about how scientists predict earthquakes. We've talked about how they control flooding. Now we're going to talk about how scientists prevent and how scientists rebuild after beach erosion has occurred. All right, remember, beach erosion is the movement of sediment from one place to another on a beach. Now, beach erosion is caused by wind and water. Scientists try to prevent the effects of erosion and rebuild once erosion has occurred on beaches. Okay, so how do they prevent it? Scientists prevent the effects of beach erosion by building what is known as a jetty. A jetty is a wall-like structure that sticks straight out into the ocean. Now, jetties are usually made of large rocks or boulders, and they protect the beach from strong waves. These strong waves are known as the current. So as the waves come in from the ocean, the heavy waves, the jetty kind of slows down how much water actually and how strong the wave is when it gets to the beach. All right? So, we've talked about how scientists prevent or prepare for the effects of beach erosion. Now we're going to talk about, so what happens when beach erosion occurs? What happens when all that sand is gone from the beach? Well, scientists complete a process which is called beach restoration. All right? What beach restoration is scientists bring sand to the beach and they rebuild and add more sand to the beach so that all the sand that was left is replaced. All right? So, Beach restoration reverses the effects of beach erosion. Now we're going to watch a quick video where you see how much restoration really costs. It's really an expensive process, but it doesn't prevent beach erosion. It just may occur again. So they bring a large amount of sand to the beach, back to the beach, and they just pour it back onto the beach over and over and over and over again. All right, so we've seen a video of beach restoration. Another word for beach restoration that you may see on tests or in articles is beach nourishment. All right, so since we've talked about beach erosion, I want you to pause the video and fill in the information on how beach erosion protects beach restoration and jetties protect and rebuild our beaches after beach erosion. Make sure you pause the video and check your spelling. All right, great job. So, now it's time to complete your reflection question. Make sure you answer your question in a complete sentence. Remember, all sentences begin with a capital letter and end with a punctuation mark. So, if you decide to write more than one sentence, make sure each sentence begins with a capital letter and ends with a punctuation mark. All right, congratulations. You have completed the last video for Unit 2, Level 2-6. Great job. Go ahead, if you have a stapler at home, go ahead and staple your notes in your tome. Have a good evening.